It is No Gifts Please, the parenting podcast by the pair with no real gifts, but a whole lot of gumption. Hey everyone, I'm Steve Noviello.
And I'm Jenny Anchondo.
Welcome to you.
Hello.
Always good to see you.
You too.
I am very excited about today's guest. Do you remember she was the very first guest we have ever had on this podcast?
And virtual.
It was virtual. She was our first guest, and it was one of those where we were just getting started and we were trying to book her. And I remember they're like, "Whoa, and people are always asking like, what's your listership?" And we're like, it is
None.
zero.
We don't have a podcast.
And she was like, you know what?
Idea.
I'm good. Like I'm good. I believe in the two of you who I've never met before.
She is Julie Cole. She's somebody whose resume, it's like, if you look at any given section of it, it's just like full, like she wins. So when it comes to how many kids she wins, she's a mom of 6. She's an entrepreneur, a recovered lawyer is what she calls herself, a best-selling author. She's a speaker, media contributor. We just had such a blast last time. And by the way, if you guys are not familiar with Mabel's Labels, you probably are and you don't realize the brand. Okay. It's the labels that we all buy before the start of the school year to make sure you don't lose your kid's water bottle that they will inevitably leave at school.
Yeah. I mean, you welcome, by the way, Julie.
Julie.
Thanks for having me in real life.
I'm going to say,
yes, this is so fun you're in town.
We're going to admit it's kind of a fangirl moment because even though you were our guest at the very beginning, which is a couple years ago at this point, we often invoke the name and advice of you during the podcast. The Enable Table has become like a character in our show.
Yes.
What you said stuck with us. So Thank you for believing in us when no one else would.
You're responsible for my daughter going through cheer practice with no shoes.
I love it. You didn't drop them off to her.
I did not.
Forgot them.
No,
yes.
We may have had an ankle injury that day, but she's never forgotten them since.
Bingo.
Yes.
So welcome. Thrilled to see you here. Real quick plug to Mabel's Labels for people who don't know about the company. I remember you telling us, you need to find something that's broken and fix it. And that's what you guys did with your company.
Right. Yeah. So it's actually been 22 years since we started Mabel's Labels. I started with my sister and a couple gal pals. And it was that we just noticed a product missing from the market. And we were putting, masking tape and permanent marker to label our kids' stuff. And it just didn't work. And we thought there must be something out there, and there wasn't. So we created our dishwasher microwave safe label, highly personalized, as you know, so it can go on the kids' sippy cups and bottles and expensive Stanley cups and all the things that go to school or camp or whatever and make their way home. And of course, since then, we've expanded to allergy alerts and clothing labels and shoe labels and bag tags and just whatever your labeling needs are. So it's been quite a ride to actually raise the family and raise the business all at once.
Well, and oddly, so you say 22 years ago that started, but that's like the median age of your children, isn't it? How did you manage both?
Right. So yes, we actually, another reason that Mabel's Labels started was because at the time, my eldest child had just turned 3 and received an autism diagnosis. And I wanted to leave the traditional workforce to have a little bit more flexibility to advocate for him and to set up programming for him. So he had just turned 3. He already had 2 younger siblings, so it was already busy. And that's when I said to the gals, look, we've had this idea. Why don't we go for it? So I had those 3. We started and then quickly had 3 more.
I was going to say, that's the surprising part of the story.
She's so cavalier. I cannot and then just had 3 more.
You're like, why stop at 3 and a business?
Oh my goodness.
And we've got a neurospicy kid and let's just have a few more.
Right?
What was the schedule like? I know that we have a specific topic we're going to get on, but I just can't sit here in front of you and not ask what your schedule was like during that time when you had 6 at home.
Yeah, it was very busy, but I was very organized. I had a whiteboard that was color coded based on, hockey, dance, music, carpool. All of that was very visible. I was always very big on the visuals. We talked about it on the show too, the visuals around, being organized and helping kids to be independent. And that really helped with the busy family.
I'm interested. I was just having this conversation with a mom maybe yesterday. We were talking about things like activities, hockey, dance, whatever else. And she was saying, we have our kids sign a contract when they sign up for something that we can do this, but you will see it through. And even if you're not participating, you will show up. Right.
Yeah.
And if you get to the point where you're like, I'm not, you can buy your way out or whatever the penalty is.
Right.
I'm curious how with 6 kids, hockey's an expensive sport,
It
right?
sure is,
I mean,
yeah.
what was the setup for like, oh, I want to do this?
Right. So our thing was at the time, everybody does a sport and everybody has an instrument. That's how we started in the early days. And our kids didn't really kick back about it because they really did see it as a privilege. They saw that, oh, if I learn to play hockey, then I'll be able to have I'll have team sport experience. It's good for me. It's good for my health. They kind of saw the value in it. We talked a lot about that. We didn't overdo it with them. So no kids played, say, rep hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you guys are good enough to just play with the kids in your own town.
and for us to not travel.
And guess what? And I didn't treat them like projects. I always said nobody's going to the National Ballet or the Olympics. And actually, I lie because Posey plays a national sport. But that is child-driven, right? Like that is kid-driven. And it is something I think parents feel a lot of guilt around extracurriculars, and parents go into debt over extracurriculars. 43% of American parents go into debt to pay for extracurriculars. Actually, I think it's more like 60%, 43% go into debt for competitive sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting because if you actually look at why we do these things, it's to get all these skills. It's for social, it's for leadership. But really, the Harvard study on chores over 80 years tells us the number one indicator that kids will succeed, they'll be better partners, they'll be better in group work, they'll be better socially, their depression levels are lower, is kids who have chores. So I always urge parents, don't feel guilty if you're not putting your kids in football 5 times a week or, competitive cheer, because as long as you give them a broom every now and again, the actual outcomes are stronger. And we know this through 80 years of study.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I think that kids have kind of become the beacon of the family, right? And that's a lot of pressure for kids and parents, frankly.
I think you're right. And I will say that probably one of the benefits of having a large family is that I don't think any of my one kids feel like they've got all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
I'm like, somebody's going to do really well. Somebody's going to be a bit of a loser.
Right.
Whatever.
It's not you, you're fine.
And they actually, with so many of them, they kind of self-regulate and they put each other in check. So if somebody's kind of going off, they'll be they rein them in. They kind of are like their own little pack, which is always nice too, because then it's coming from each other, like that peer community of siblings, rather than me. In a lot of ways.
For chores, were you a Saturday morning chore person? Were you you have all week to get this one task done, or how were you delegating it?
It depended. It depended. There would be their daily chores.
Sure.
They would have to do, make your bed or, make your school lunch or whatever, those sorts of things that are day to day. And then there might be sort of bigger ones. It might be hey, it's leaf raking day. We need everybody to commit to Saturday this week or whatever. But one thing I was very clear about is I never paid kids for chores. To me, nobody pays me for chores. I don't make dinner and then somebody hands me $1.
You give a bill.
So unfortunate, by the way.
Isn't it
Yes.
so unfair?
Yes.
So to me, that's just part of being a family and being part of a community. And that's why the study does show that they are better community members. They are more socially minded because they feel a part of something and they didn't get paid for it. It's just something that they had to do. And I also am mindful that I don't make chores punishment. Mm-hmm. It's not about punishment. It's about just we have to get things done. And I try not to complain generally, and I don't complain about chores, but I'm not toxically positive. Yay, it's scrub the floor day. But I'll be come on, guys, it's our day. Let's throw some music on and let's see if we can, you can even gamify it, right? Hey, let's see if we can get all these toys picked up within. Let's get the stopwatch on and see if we can do it in the next, 5 minutes or whatever. So there are ways just to make it so it's an activity and just not punishment.
That dovetails nicely into allowance. Did you do it? How did you navigate it?
So I did do allowance because there's a significant amount of time where they can't work, right? They are children. There are laws.
Oh, come on.
I mean, not if nobody doesn't find out, Julie.
Yeah. Well, if anyone was going to find that loophole, it would have been me. But like I said, I didn't tie it to chores. So they would just get a certain amount of money. So once a month, or I think we did it monthly, they would get a certain amount of money. And that was just because they had to learn to manage money.
Okay.
So there's financial literacy involved in that. So if I want to save up for something, if I want to donate something, if I want a short-term goal or a longer, like maybe I want a skateboard and that's going to cost this much, or maybe I want to be able to buy some lollies on Saturday or an ice cream when I go out. So there'd be different like levels.
lolly?
Like a lollipop or like
Oh.
candies.
Okay. I was like, what is that?
I've got
It's a Canadian.
I don't know. I've got some weird terminology.
That is so,
I use.
we
Lollies.
have a baby book that says ice lollies.
Yeah.
And Heath and I always like laugh about it. We're like, what's an
That's
ice
a popsicle.
lolly? Okay, a popsicle.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway.
Oh, is
continue.
it really?
Yeah, but
I
that's
just got that.
Australian, really.
Okay.
So,
You're so international.
yeah, right? I'm bilingual. Trilingual. I can speak American, Canadian, and Australian. And I can say nappy and diaper.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of, and I think the financial literacy piece is really important, Steve, because, I even going back to us talking about these parents going into debt over extracurriculars, like that's ridiculous to me. Like if you're going to go into debt over this, like your kid's not a project, you can't have these kind of expectations and put all these things on them. It's anything that they do that they're going to be good at is going to be led by them. We had a family friend who just all they wanted to do was refurnish their basement, but they couldn't because their kid was down there hitting the hockey ball against and that's the kind of kid who goes to the NHL, and he did. Because his parents were like, can you just stop so we can finish the basement and make it look nice down there? And he was like, no. And so if it's child driven, that's when they're going to get to those,
right?
And like how many of them are like 2?
And right. Maybe nobody who's even listening right now, is going to have somebody whose child earns an income off of the sport that they're doing.
Exactly. But there's a lot of good things that come from doing the sport and that, but we just can't look at it as like being like a superstar or a project. And so why are our families going into financial debt and stress over, this is where we get into that competitive parenting. Well, if all the other parents are doing it, or like even the birthday parties, the average parent is spending $300 per birthday party. A lot of them are more like $500. And why are we doing this? Are we doing it so that it looks good on Instagram? Are we doing it so that people talk about how good our birthday parties are? If those are the reasons, like, no, don't go into debt over this stuff.
Right. It's interesting that you make the distinction of like child driven, which I think is so interesting. We try and do that with our kids. We say, hey, what would you like to do? And, they're a little young and they're, they know what they don't want to do. That's what I think is just as important sometimes. But I forget who it was. I think it was on the show. They were talking about, like if your kid is not great at tennis and loves doing their math homework, like get them a math tutor, not a tennis coach, right?
Right. Like
let them show you, listen.
I love that. And, it's interesting too, because when you have kids, particularly kids with quirky interests, right? So, I've got like my one kid, Posey, who's like a very good athlete, like I said, playing a national sport. So she seems to get very rewarded just from a social perspective for, the things she does. She goes to World Games and has special blazers and things like that.
Wait, what does she do? What sport
lacrosse.
is this? So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
She's cool. But then I've got this other kid who's a birder. So really into bird watching. So with that kid, I would have to get up at 6 a.m., drive an hour every Saturday morning to take them to bird banding, and then do the same thing to bring them home. But I was as supportive as the bird banding as I was
the
the lacrosse, because I think it's important, and it's so like that kid now is so fascinating.
Right.
My birder, like the coolest kid ever, right? So I just think, parents often get caught up in like how it feels good when other people are celebrating your kids for the cool things they're doing. They're the quarterback on the football team. But what about those cool birders out there, hey?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we were just talking about that on a recent episode where I was saying I'm at a point now with my children there at a certain age where the quirks of the kids are starting to come out. The quirks of the parents are also starting to come out. Everybody has finally exhaled, and I'm like, oh, these people are actually very cool and I enjoy hanging out with them. We're done with we're having a perfect birthday party and everyone's dressed up and going to be room mom and and it's a lot more real and to your point and freeing. Yes. And to your point, I think that like, I love the idea, and I think that it is hard for parents to do, of being just as excited as at your bird watching kid that people honestly might, because I think that sometimes the tendency is to be like, bird watching, like, gosh, I don't want you to get picked on. Like, but they're like, no, I love bird watching.
Yeah. And they'll find their people.
Right.
They always find their people. They always
Yes.
find their people. And also, if you raise them in such a way that they're confident, they own their bird watching. My kid has never felt any and nobody would even think to make fun of like Sass and their bird watching. Like they just always just owned who they are, and it's a lovely thing to watch.
And frankly, it's the kind of thing that gets you into college,
Right.
I mean, like,
Totally.
how many other kids?
Posey's going to blow a knee and then she's useless.
Okay, I have a follow up though on the allowance because we don't do that, but I feel like maybe
We have to start.
Maybe,
Yes.
maybe I never had one, but I think there wasn't.
Well, how
the
did you
budget
get
for
money
it.
then? How did you?
I babysat. I worked. I mowed lawns. I mean,
Sure,
I worked.
my kids do all that.
She
But
cleaned the
was
bean pan at Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I started at Taco Bell on my 15th birthday.
Wow.
So I mean, I had like money.
Yes.
But I understand what you're saying about things are different too. I mean, just the safety of riding your bike to Taco Bell to work now is maybe just like not as much of a thing. But I'm curious.
Oh, it's
about,
just as safe. Just us parents are freaks.
yeah.
They're fine.
So I'm
Nobody
curious
wants your
about
kids.
how you decide
Yeah.
which, like certain things. It's like okay, cleats for football or basketball or something, you're going to buy them, or do you not? Because
Okay.
now they have an allowance, and now you actually do have enough money if you want to buy $100 shoes. Or how did you decide what
Right.
the allowance went to?
Right. So we would set up when they were quite small. We would have actual different, like a piggy bank with 3 things or separate like bowls. So they would have one for savings, and there's always a percentage. So say they got, I don't know, $5 a week, so $20 a month. So we'd be like, okay, what percentage should you save, and what do you want to put that towards? And do you want to contribute? Like we have a child that we sponsor overseas, and we make that like we always wrote to that child, and so we felt very much like it was. And I could even say if the kids were like, "Mommy, can I have this?" I'd be like, "I don't think we're going to have enough to send to Ulysses if we buy something like that." And they'd be like, "Oh no, that's more important. That's a priority." I'm like, "I think that's right." So bringing a face, like I feel like having this this sponsored child taught them a lot of lessons, got me out of the hook of buying them stuff, because I'd be like, well, if you want Ulysses, in El Salvador, if you cared about him. And also just that writing back and forth and that sort of thing. And it made them feel like they were a part of giving and doing something useful. So back to that. So I would have like a savings, I would have a donation, and then a spend, right? But they'd have to think about what kind of things they want to, at Christmas time, they want to buy something for all their siblings. We kept things very, low key around things like that. But, they need to save for those things. Now, when it gets to the point where they're like, oh, I want these like Nike whatevers, I would be like, okay, you know what? I will contribute to back to school shoes if you're 12 or 13, but you will get $50. So if you want to put the rest of your money in, go for it, or I'll pay half. And then you know what you learn pretty quickly? What they won't put their own money towards. Often, if you make them have skin in the game, you will see what they really want and what they really don't care that much about. They'll want it if you're paying for it, but they don't want to part with their own do-re-mi to pay for it.
Totally.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
Skin in the game.
With the boys? Are you going to do an allowance?
So I remember distinctly, it's a core memory of mine, the day that my dad came to my sister and I and said, I'm taking everything from your piggy bank that's going in the bank, and today we start with an allowance. We both started equally with $0, and then I think we got like $1.25 a week or whatever the heck it was in the late 70s. And it was about managing money, and it was about, saving and buying and whatever. And I remember saving up for my first Lego set that I really wanted. I do love the idea of like, supplemental, like the idea of, okay, you're playing soccer, you need cleats. These are the cleats. If you want the ones that have lights on them, like feel free to contribute the other $50 or whatever the difference is. And I couldn't agree with you more that I think you'll I don't know if they're big in Canada. There's this brand called Goat USA, which probably not big in Canada.
Not that I would necessarily know.
Now that I mentioned it. Yeah. Huge, like they are T-shirts with a goat on it, and the goat is doing 1,000 different things. There's a peanut butter and jelly one. There's like a rainbow one. There's an ice cream one. Every kid at school is dripping in this stuff. Our school now has custom Goat USA right. So these
we don't have any of this.
$30
no
T-shirt.
Well,
you have a girl.
About.
You have a girl.
I guess this is a boy brand.
It's more of a boy thing.
Okay.
Although they do have girls stuff, but these are $30 T-shirts.
Yeah.
Like you're 8. I don't have a $30 t-shirt. So like, okay, what does that look like? Like, God, I really, really want it. Okay, great. Go into your big bank. And we actually, so the way that we do it is, again, our kids, they'll earn money or they'll have money or whatever the case is. And our rule is you can spend your money on what you want to, but whatever the amount is, you have to take the equal amount and put it into a savings account. So if you want to buy $40 worth of Pokemon cards, it's actually an $80 lift.
I love it.
So that's that.
I think that's a great way to set it up.
Okay, we love talking to you. We'd love you free to stay for another episode.
Yeah.
So let's end it there for now, because I know we've got a kind of a list of topics.
Yes.
We went a little rogue here, but
I know we totally did, but that's okay.
It's
I
a
loved
fascinating
it.
conversation. So Julie Cole from Mabel's Labels, tell people where they can find you on Instagram and your website.
You bet. Okay, so of course, mabelslabels.com. And then about me is mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole. And you can find me on Instagram at Julie Cole Inc. And of course, at Mabel's Labels.
Awesome. Again, we want to remind you every Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. is when a new one of our episodes drops. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform. And if you do nothing else today, go out and find yourself a friend you don't need to clean the house for.